Hi, welcome to the May 2022 Greater Phoenix Market Update. I'm Daryl Lund. I'm a realtor with Keller Williams Realty East Valley in Tempe, Arizona. Before we jump into the market stats, just a quick reminder of where I get my information from. The bulk of the charts and information come from the Crawford Report, which is a subscription-based service for realtors in the Phoenix metro area. I consider them to be the most accurate and have the most insightful data. Some of the other stats will come from the Arizona Regional Multiple Listing Service or miscellaneous websites that I'll cite and share links with in the description. Let's talk about the macro market stats for the Valley. Let's take a look at some of the market stats as of right now. So it is Monday, May 9th, right around 1:20 in the afternoon. As of right now, there are 7,035 homes active on the market, and this is all type of properties: single family homes, townhouses, manufactured homes, condos, duplexes. That's what there is. Okay, let's look at what we have in escrow. That would be under contract, accepting backup offers, and pending. So total between those two categories, there is 10,804 properties. So we've got more properties in escrow that are available on the market. And let's take a look at some of the other market stats right now from last month. So last month, there were 8,825 homes that closed escrow. The average sales price of those properties was $594,928. Last year, the average sales price was $500,367. Right now, we have about 3/4 of a month supply of inventory. What that means is if no homes go on the market, at the current rate they're selling, it would take about 3/4 of a month for all those properties to be sold. And the sold to list price last month was 101.8% of the asking price. One of my favorite tools is the Crawford Index. This index is a formula that shows the state of the market. This shows who has the upper hand in the market, buyers or sellers, and which way it's trending. When the index is between 90 and 110, the market is considered balanced. Buyers or sellers do not have an advantage based on supply or demand. When it's over 110, homes typically appreciate at a rate higher than the current rate of inflation. Let's take a look at the current market, the current Crawford Index, and how it compares with some of the cities. What we're looking at here is the Crawford Index, and this was last updated on May 8th. So these are really good real-time stats. So the index right now is at 367, the market index is at 362.7. What this is from is, if you remember from the previous few slides, that we currently have more homes in escrow than we do for our supply. So 362 is a pretty hot market still. But something I want you to look at is since April 9th, 30 days ago, it went from 439 down to 362. So that's almost an 80-point drop in a month. That is a pretty big drop. The other things that are factored into the Crawford Index is the demand. So the demand is at 100.8. So demand is normal, right? Where it typically would be. However, supply is at 27.8. And that's what's keeping the market or the index where it is. Let's take a look at a couple of the cities right now, and I'll show you how they compare. Remember, this is for the greater Phoenix area. Let's look at how the greater Phoenix area compares with some of the cities. All right, what we're going to do now is take a look at a couple of the cities and see how they compare to the overall market index. Let's start with the biggest city, Phoenix. Right now, their Crawford Index is at 397.6. Demand is below average at 85.7, However, their supply is also lower than the market average at 21.6. Let's take a look at a few East Valley cities. Let's start with Chandler. Okay, Chandler, demand is even lower at 76.6. However, their supply is lower at 19.9, and that leaves the index at 384.9. Gilbert, very similar. Let's look at Scottsdale. Okay, Scottsdale, their index is at 430.9. Demand, again, slightly below normal, but their supply is way below normal at 21.8. Let's see what we've got in Queen Creek. Okay, interesting. Queen Creek's demand is right at 100. Their supply is a little bit higher, so their market index is lower at 285.2. See what's happening in Mesa. Mesa demand slightly below normal. Their supply, right, very similar to the other cities, and the market index is at 390. Let's see what's happening in some of the West Valley cities. We'll start with Avondale. Avondale, demand at 76.9. Their supply is way low at 15, and their index is at 502. Okay, Buckeye. Wow, they've got a 51% normal supply. Demand is just slightly above normal, but their index is at 198.2. Okay, let's look at Glendale. Demand 88.6. Their index is at 434, and their supply is at 20.4. Let's look at one more in the West Valley. Let's see what's happening with Surprise. Okay, Surprise, demand just slightly below normal. Their market index is at 344.7, and their supply is a little bit higher than what we've seen with some of the other ones at 28. One thing I noticed that's interesting is if we take a look at some of the outlying areas, that's where we can see that the market index is changing and there's a little bit more hope for buyers. So let's look at Arizona City. Arizona City, the market index is at 374.3. Their demand is the highest we've seen at 237.5, but their supply, again, also much higher at 63.4% of normal. Okay, let's see what we have in Casa Grande. Demand index 157.4, so higher, again, one of the higher areas. Their supply is at 58.5, and their market index is at 269.1. Let's see what's happening in Maricopa. Okay, their demand's at 141. Their supply is the highest, I believe, at 60.7, and the market index is at 232.9. So if you're looking to buy and you don't mind being a little bit further out, these are the areas that are going to give you the most opportunity to get into a home. This goes over the last 6 months of the Crawford Index. It started at 346 back in November. It peaked in February where we were right around 475. And as soon as interest rates started to go up, we can see a very sharp decline. We're going to compare that now to where the interest rates went up. This web page is from the St. Louis Federal Reserve, and this shows mortgage rates over the last year. So it comes out every Thursday. On May 6, 2021, interest rates were at 2.96%. Last Thursday, they were at 5.27%. And you can see just about the time the Crawford report started, or the Crawford Index started to decline, this is when we saw the steep increase in rates. What I'd like to do now is show you a real-time example of how much it's costing sellers to purchase a home or buy a home right now compared to this time last year. So based on the stats we were looking at earlier, the average sales price this time last year was $500,367. We're assuming a 10% down payment, and this is just the principal and interest. And at that time, the rates were 2.96%. So that takes the payment last year. It would take somebody about $889 for the principal and interest portion of their house. Let's compare that to today. The average house price is $594,298. We're going to keep the 10% down payment, 30-year fixed, and we're going to adjust that interest rate to 5.27%. Okay, that's a payment of $2,960, a difference of $1,071 a month, which is a 56% increase. That's very significant, and that's why we've seen the market slow down somewhat. Also factor in everybody's paying more for everything else with inflation. Fuel, groceries, you name it, it's costing everybody more, so there's less money to spend right now. Let's talk about the rental market. It seems as if the rental market has topped out. We've seen the average price of rents has stalled over the last few months. Looking at this chart, they peaked in August at $1.34 a square foot, and today they're at $1.31. And what this is based off of is all units, apartments, single-family homes, townhouses, condos, you name it, between 1,500 and 2,000 square feet. So what they try to compare this to is the average house in the valley. So as you can see, price per square foot, interest rates have stalled and gone down just a little bit. And what's causing that is the supply of rental units. That's actually increased. We're going to take a look at that. What has caused the rental market to kind of stall is the increase in inventory for rental properties. We have seen since September 2021 through last month a 58% increase in the number of available rentals. So what this means for people who are looking to rent a property, you're probably going to have a few more choices, less competition amongst other renters trying to get into that property. And if you're a landlord, you may want to think twice about raising your rents if you have a good tenant in place and you're already very close to fair market value for what your property should rent out for. Also, if you're thinking about getting into the rental market or have an investment property, keep in mind you're probably going to have to put more money down right now to get that to cash flow at a positive number every month. I've talked about demand going down since the interest rates have increased. Let's look at what affects demand. It's just not the number of homes on the market and the price of homes and the interest rates. One, we have population growth. Two, inbound relocation. This would be people moving from other parts of the country to the valley. As you've probably read, we have a lot of people moving in from the West Coast, Washington, Oregon, California. We also have a lot of people moving from the more expensive areas of the Midwest, mainly the Chicago area. Household formation. This is when there's a need for another housing unit based on a household formation. When there's more households forming, we're going to need more properties. Household formation would be this. For example, let's say a child moves out of their parents' house and needs to rent an apartment or buy their own house. That would be household formation. Household shrinking is when two people move into the same house. So if a couple gets married and live together, that would be shrinking. If parents go ahead and move back in with their kids, or kids move back in with their parents, that would create shrinking household formation. Affordability. Affordability just isn't the interest rate and the price of the home. Employment levels, income can affect affordability. Appreciation, depreciation, interest rates. Now, interest rates can offset affordability. We've seen that over the last year when interest rates were really low and housing started to increase in their values quite a bit. They still remained affordable because of the low interest rates, but we're seeing the opposite of that now. Another thing that can happen is lenders can loosen or tighten their lending practices. So if they loosen lending practices, that will allow more people to buy a home and affect demand in a positive manner. The last one would be consumer sentiment. If people think it's a bad time to buy, obviously demand's going to go down. If they think it's a good time, then demand's going to go up. Recently, I've had some conversations with people who have been concerned about a housing bubble, and I want to talk to you a little bit about that and what to expect with the market going forward. So one of the great reasons why the Crawford Market Index is a valuable tool is it is a predictor of annual price appreciation. As long as the Crawford Index is over 110, it's reasonable to expect prices to increase over the rate of inflation. Let's take a look at the Crawford Index over the last 21 years. The black line is the Crawford Market Index, blue line is annual appreciation, and the green lines are the rate of inflation. So going back to 2001, we were in a normal market. The Crawford Index was flat, appreciation was fairly flat, and inflation was low. Then we went into our boom cycle, and you can see the Crawford Index actually was moving up as along with the housing values. Then we went into our bust cycle, the opposite happened. And then look at our recovery. Again, you can see that the market was kind of flat. Appreciation was a little bit flat, and so was the Crawford Index. We had a little bit of a dip here in 2018 when interest rates went up. And in 2020, you can see the dip here. That was when COVID started. And then the Crawford market increase went up, and along with the rates of the values of homes and the rate of inflation. So here's what I would tell sellers who are worried about a crash. One is prices declining is based on an oversupply of homes. Right now, we do not have that. We still have a strong market, but I think it's fair to say that we're going through a shift. And if you're worried about selling or your house value, keep an eye out on the Crawford Market Index. I'm always happy to share that with people. And keep an eye out on the inventory of available homes for sale. That'll give you an idea of where the market is going. I think it's fair to say that our market is in a shift right now. And let me tell you what to expect during a shift. So for sellers, your home probably isn't going to sell in a weekend with multiple offers. I think those days are numbered. It can still happen, but I think that those are coming to an end, especially since we've seen our inventory of homes or the supply increase a little bit. As the inventory increases, buyers are going to have more choices. So you may not get 20 offers in one day, 100,000 over asking price, waiving inspections, appraisals, and everything else. For buyers, a little bit of good news. You'll probably be able to see a house before you have to write an offer on it. And you may be able to negotiate a little bit. You should be able to keep the appraisal contingency intact. You'll be able to negotiate repairs. Sellers will have to make their home more marketable. Don't expect just to buy a fixer-upper for above market value. All right. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, and be sure to like and subscribe. My next video, I'm going to compare how the market crash of 2008 is different than today. So stay tuned, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you. Bye.